Have you ever wondered why you sometimes feel drained or lost when you're around other people? Maybe you've chosen to avoid crowded gatherings and seek alone time to recharge. This brings a sense of peace, yet leaves you questioning, is this normal? Am I doing something wrong? In this video, we'll delve into 7 profound reasons, spanning psychology to life philosophy, to uncover why you feel this way. And the message I want to convey is this: the important thing is not forcing yourself to become someone else, but understanding yourself deeply so you can live more harmoniously with your inner needs and the world around you. Join me on this journey of discovery to realize that your uniqueness is something to be cherished. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. It means a lot to us. Thank you for your support. Let's get started. Number 1. Introversion. I have an older brother who always made me wonder, why doesn't he enjoy attending crowded parties or starting conversations with strangers? I used to think he disliked socializing, but the truth was entirely different. One day he told me, I don't hate people, but constant interaction drains me. I need some quiet time to regain my energy. That insight helped me understand that for introverts, social interactions are not a source of energy, but something that gradually depletes it. They're not antisocial, they simply need a different approach to live in balance. Why do introverts feel drained so easily? Introverts aren't cold or lacking social skills. They simply process everything around them more deeply. Every conversation, every laugh, and even small changes in the social atmosphere are carefully analyzed by their minds. This makes them more susceptible to feeling overloaded. Imagine, every greeting, every question, or every laugh is a piece of energy you give away. In a crowded social environment, an introvert's energy gradually diminishes. It's not that they dislike socializing, but the continuous need to communicate and adapt creates pressure, prompting them to withdraw and recharge. Silence, the strength of introverts. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "He who looks inward awakens." For introverts, silence is not a weakness. It's a space for them to restore their energy, nurture creativity, and reconnect with themselves. Instead of feeling guilty for needing alone time, they should take pride in the fact that this quietness enables them to develop depth in thought and emotion. If you're an introvert, remember that you don't need to change to please others. Your strength lies in knowing when to pause, step back, and allow yourself to rest. The key is not trying to become someone else, but staying true to your nature and using your alone time as a tool for growth. Number 2. Sensory processing sensitivity. Have you ever noticed that things that seem normal to others oddly bother you? Loud music, bright lights shining directly into your eyes, or even just a faint whiff of perfume. For you, these minor stimuli are not so easy to ignore. They invade your mind, making it hard for you to focus or feel comfortable. People with sensory processing sensitivity have a finely tuned nervous system that processes every element of their surroundings more deeply. This means you can pick up on subtle nuances that others might overlook, but it also makes you more prone to sensory overload, especially in crowded environments. Imagine sitting in a busy restaurant. At first, you try to engage in the conversation, but soon the clatter of dishes, the chaotic laughter and chatter around you, and the overly bright lights begin to irritate you. This chaos quickly takes over your mind, making it hard to focus, and you gradually feel drained. By the time you leave, you're exhausted, both physically and mentally. But this is not a weakness. In fact, this sensitivity is a gift. It allows you to notice the subtleties in music, art, and other people's emotions that others might easily miss. Your sensitivity helps you live more authentically in connection with the world, but it also requires you to protect yourself to avoid burnout. So how can you live harmoniously with this sensitivity? First, choose environments that suit you. Quiet places like small cafes, parks, or low-stimulation spaces are ideal for meaningful connection. Second, practice mindfulness. When you feel overwhelmed by your surroundings, take a moment to focus on your breath or remind yourself that it's okay to step away from overstimulating situations. Remember, as Epictetus once said, "What matters is not what happens to you, but how you respond to it." You cannot control everything in your environment, but you can create spaces that work for you. Your sensitivity is not a burden, it's a strength, as long as you know how to nurture and care for it. Number 3, above average intelligence. Have you ever felt out of place in social conversations? Those around you seem perfectly content discussing gossip, TV shows, or shallow topics, but for you, they hold no appeal. On the contrary, you crave more meaningful discussions, spaces where you can share thoughts, big ideas, or profound questions about life. This often happens to people with above-average intelligence. Your mind is wired to think at a higher level, constantly seeking depth and genuine meaning in communication. When surface-level conversations fail to satisfy you, it's easy to feel bored or even disconnected. This isn't your fault. It's simply the way your brain operates. Imagine attending a social gathering. Everyone is eagerly discussing the latest episode of a popular TV show, but you remain silent. In your mind, topics like philosophy, science, or the meaning of life are urging you to speak up, but it's clear this isn't the right setting. By the end of the gathering, you leave feeling lonely, not because you dislike the people, but because you didn't find intellectual alignment. However, this doesn't mean you have to force yourself to fit into situations that don't resonate with you. Accept that not everyone operates on the same intellectual wavelength as you, and that doesn't diminish your worth. Instead, seek out relationships and communities where you can thrive. For example, join book discussions, philosophy clubs, or groups centered around interests like science or art. Ask yourself, what kind of communication do you truly want to engage in? Who are the people with whom you want to share your ideas, visions, and inspirations? By focusing on these questions, you can build an environment where your intellect can shine. This won't just make you feel more at ease, but will also allow you to explore greater depths within yourself. Remember, your value isn't defined by how well you fit in, but by your ability to stay true to who you are. Be proud of that difference. Above-average intelligence is not a burden, it's a gift. When you place it in the right context, you'll find meaningful connections and conversations that truly nourish your soul. Number 4, low self-esteem. Have you ever felt like you're not good enough? Have you ever hesitated to join a conversation or even walk into a crowded room because of the fear of being judged? If so, this stems from low self-esteem, a lingering feeling that makes you constantly doubt your own worth. Low self-esteem often leads you to worry that others will judge you, focusing on your weaknesses or mistakes instead of appreciating who you truly are. This fear causes you to withdraw from relationships or opportunities for social connection. Ironically, withdrawing only amplifies the feeling of low self-worth. You start believing you're undeserving, unfit, and you become increasingly isolated. This creates a negative emotional loop that you need to break. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to be loved. Your worth doesn't come from how you look, what you say, or what you achieve. It comes from who you are, from your essence, sincerity, and the efforts you make. As Seneca once said, the opinions of thousands mean nothing if they do not truly know you. Indeed, no one in this world understands you better than yourself. So instead of chasing others' approval, focus on building your inner value. Low self-esteem isn't the truth about you. It's just a story you've told yourself too many times. It's time to change that story. How can you overcome low self-esteem? Practice self-compassion. Pause and acknowledge the things you've done well, instead of focusing solely on what's imperfect. For instance, If you say something wrong in a conversation, instead of blaming yourself, remind yourself that mistakes are normal and everyone makes them. See mistakes as opportunities to learn. Mistakes don't define who you are. They're lessons on your path to growth. Instead of fearing mistakes, view them as opportunities to improve. For example, if you're hesitant to voice your opinion in a meeting because you're afraid of being wrong, think of every time you speak up as a chance to build confidence and refine your communication skills. Imagine a friend who is invited to a gathering but declines out of fear they won't have anything interesting to say. Later, they sit at home, criticizing themselves for not going. This deepens their feelings of inadequacy and disconnects them further from others. But if they had courageously attended, they might have realized that others weren't judging them as harshly as they thought. Remember, low self-esteem isn't the truth. It's a distorted perception. You don't need to be perfect to be loved, and you don't need everyone's approval to know you have worth. Start with small steps, like practicing self-compassion and accepting your right to make mistakes. Ultimately, as Seneca emphasized, the opinions of others only matter if they truly understand you. What's most important is that you understand yourself and live authentically to that value. Number 5. Traumatic experiences. I once had a very close friend. We grew up together and shared almost every secret in our lives. But one day she discovered that the boyfriend she trusted most had betrayed her. Not only that, but he also spread personal details she had confided in him, breaking his promise to keep them private. This left her utterly devastated. She told me that from that moment, she couldn't trust anyone anymore. Whether it was a new relationship or even a casual conversation, she carried a constant fear that the same thing would happen again. To protect herself, she built invisible walls, keeping people at a safe distance. But those very walls also left her feeling isolated, as if she were cut off from the world. Why does trauma make it hard to open up? When we experience deep emotional wounds, our minds learn to stay vigilant. They perceive every relationship as a potential threat and activate a defense mechanism by keeping others at arm's length. However, this mechanism not only blocks out negative experiences, but also robs you of the chance to build meaningful and healthy relationships. My friend once confided that she was even afraid to start a small conversation with someone new. Deep down, she didn't want to be hurt again. But this fear also made her miss opportunities to meet genuinely kind and sincere people. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The obstacle is the way." This means that the wounds we endure are not barriers but lessons that help us grow. Traumatic experiences can alter how you view life, but they also present an opportunity to develop resilience and compassion. Stoicism teaches us that while we can't control what has happened, we can control how we respond to it. Only when you have the courage to face your pain, learn to heal, and turn your wounds into strength, can you move forward. After a long period of shutting herself off, my friend finally began reconnecting with others. She met a new friend in her yoga class, a patient person who never pressured her to share more than she was ready to. At first, they only talked about small things like that day's workout or the book they were reading. With each conversation, she realized that not everyone was like the person who had hurt her. Her new friend didn't judge her, exploit her openness, or push her boundaries. They simply listened and offered support. Slowly but surely, she began to trust again. She started sharing more personal things and discovered that trust can be rebuilt, not through giant leaps, but through small actions, genuine moments, and patience. How can you overcome trauma? Acknowledge your pain. Don't try to bury or deny your feelings. Recognize that your wounds exist and are a part of you. Healing isn't about forgetting the pain, but learning to live with it more gently. Open up step by step. You don't need to force yourself to trust others immediately. Start with small, safe relationships, a friend, a family member, or even a therapist. View your trauma as a lesson. Instead of focusing solely on the pain, ask yourself, what has this taught me? How have I grown stronger because of it? When you shift your perspective, your trauma no longer feels like a burden, but becomes a driving force for growth. Remember, trauma does not define you. How you overcome it does. Scars are not marks of failure. They are proof that you've lived, loved, and learned. Let your wounds become your motivation rather than your barrier. And always remember, no matter how difficult the healing process may be, it is a journey worth taking. Number 6. Fear of intimacy. Have you ever found it difficult to let someone get close to you? The fear that if you open up, they'll see your most vulnerable parts, and that could lead to hurt. This is a common experience for those who carry a fear of intimacy. This fear often stems from past traumatic experiences. Perhaps you've been betrayed, disappointed, or hurt in a significant relationship. To protect yourself, you build emotional walls. The problem is, these walls not only shield you from pain, but also block opportunities for deep connections, the kind that can bring joy and meaning to your life. Remember, intimacy doesn't mean losing yourself. It's a way to connect with others on a deeper level, not just through words, but through understanding and trust. Opening up doesn't make you weaker. In fact, it makes you stronger as you learn to build trust and sustain meaningful relationships. As Epictetus once said, you cannot control the actions of others, but you can control how you respond. You cannot control how others react to your intimacy, whether they might hurt you or not. But you can control how you gradually open up. This not only helps protect yourself, but also allows you to experience more fulfilling relationships. How can you overcome the fear of intimacy? Start with simple sharing. Instead of immediately opening up entirely, try sharing small things about your life, like your hobbies or daily emotions. Observe the other person's reaction. You'll realize that not everyone will hurt you. See intimacy as a natural part of life. Intimacy comes with risks, but it's also where you find true connection. Focus on the value it brings, rather than only on the potential risks. Imagine you've been hurt in a past relationship. Later, you meet someone new, but your fear of past experiences holds you back. However, you decide to start with small shares, like a funny story about your day at work. When you see that they listen and respond with genuine care, you feel encouraged to share more. Step by step, you realize that not everyone is like the person who hurt you. Intimacy is no longer a threat. It becomes a bridge to connect you with people who truly value you. Intimacy is a process, not something you have to achieve all at once. Take small steps, starting with what feels comfortable. When you focus on controlling how you open up, you'll discover that intimacy doesn't weaken you. It helps you connect and grow stronger than ever. Number 7. Trust issues. I still remember the first time I realized how difficult it was to trust someone. After being betrayed by a close friend, a person I once believed would never hurt me, I felt like all my faith in people had crumbled. Shame, pain, and hesitation took over my mind. From that point on, I kept my distance from everyone around me. I protected myself by not letting anyone get too close, by not sharing too much, and by constantly questioning, can this person be trusted? But then I realized that this self-protection didn't make me safer. It only made me lonelier. Instead of the peace I hoped to find, I felt increasingly disconnected from others. I came to understand that if I continued living in doubt, I would never have meaningful relationships. But how do you start over when your trust has been broken? Why is trust so fragile? When you've been betrayed, your mind automatically creates a defense mechanism. You keep your distance, question others' motives, and sometimes even fear that every kind gesture hides a malicious intent. I used to be like that too. Even when someone tried to approach me sincerely, I couldn't shake the feeling that they might exploit my openness. However, I learned that trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight. It's not a quick decision, but a step-by-step journey. Trusting again doesn't mean forgetting the pain of the past. It means learning to move beyond it, to embrace new opportunities. I remember working with a new colleague on a group project. At first, I kept my distance, reluctant to share too much for fear my openness might be taken advantage of. But one day, she offered to help me fix a part of the project I was struggling with. What stood out was that she didn't just help. She never once brought it up as if it were a favor. From then on, I began to open up little by little. I started small conversations with her, asking about her family or personal interests. Over time, I realized she was trustworthy, a person who didn't exploit my openness to hurt me. These small actions gradually rebuilt my trust. They taught me that trusting doesn't require a giant leap. It's a process of taking small, deliberate steps. Even though trust carries risks, it is also the bridge that connects us to genuine and meaningful relationships. How to rebuild trust? Start with small actions. Try sharing something small, like a story about your hobbies or a day at work, and observe how the other person reacts. When they show respect and sincerity, you'll find it easier to open up further. Accept that risk is natural. Trust never guarantees complete safety, but it doesn't mean everyone will hurt you. Focus on the value you can gain from genuine connections rather than solely fearing what you might lose. Set clear boundaries. Opening up doesn't mean abandoning all caution. Set boundaries that make you feel comfortable, allowing the process of building trust to unfold at your own pace. If you're like I was, hesitant, distant, and always doubting others, remember that trust isn't something you have to rebuild in a rush. It's a journey that takes time. As in my story with my colleague, I learned that trust isn't about giving everything away at once. It's about small steps, experimental moments, and light conversations that test sincerity. Most importantly, it's an opportunity to rediscover connection, safety, and the real meaning of relationships. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do not let the actions of others make you into someone like those who hurt you." Instead, choose the courage to open up bit by bit, with patience and compassion for yourself. You deserve to be loved and to connect with genuine relationships, places where you feel safe and truly understood. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If these insights have helped you better understand yourself or sparked meaningful reflections, please leave a comment to share your thoughts with me. Don't forget to like this video, share it with those who might benefit from these messages, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future content. The journey of self-discovery is a long one, and I'm truly happy to be accompanying you on this path. See you in the next videos.